Hello, and welcome to the Marketer's Guide to the AI Galaxy. Today, we are joined by someone who we've worked very closely with over the past couple of years, and that is Dr. Paul Caplan from UAL, or the University of the Arts London, who's been helping advertising students grapple with AI in really creative and critical ways.
So Paul is part academic and part, I mean this as a compliment, a bit of a troublemaker. And we've really learned a lot from the way he pushes students to not just use AI, but question it every step of the way. So before we get into the myths, Paul, could you tell us a bit about the work you're doing with the students, please?
I really like Joya's use of the word grapple. I'm going to adopt that as my way of working. But yeah, I think the project that we did together with you guys was picking up on work I've done over a number of years, where I get students to do what we call practice research, which is making things in order to understand things. And the project we did this year, as you guys know, is we got them to make a prototype AI agent. They had to come up with some reason for it, some business case for it, and then actually try and make it. So they were tinkering around with various plug and play things and trying to do some vibe coding to put things together, etc. The important thing was, and I think the success of it was not that they made AI agents, but they learned so much more about questions about agentic AI, etc., by actually doing it. We could have sat down and made them read books or watch videos or listen to your podcast if you like, and that would have been wonderful. But by actually making something or trying to make something, and often failing to make something, they actually learnt more by doing that. And I think that's the approach we try to take.
Oh,
Yeah, we
that's
love
great.
that. It's been so much fun working with them, and for our case, also learning from the students.
Yes.
Because yeah, we're all just trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
So we gave Paul a challenge, which is to bring some of the AI myths he hears most often. So whether it's in the classroom industry or just in the ad sphere and cultural sphere.
And of course, these aren't your standard quote unquote AI will take our jobs myths. They are deeper, they're weirder, and more useful to unpack. So, Paul, hit us with your first myth that you see, or you want to
Yeah, I mean,
unpack.
I'm not sure whether they're actually myths or cliches, but I think it's in the same sort of ballpark. And picking up on Mara's point about being a troublemaker, let's see if we can make some trouble around AI. I think the first one, and it picks up on the project we did, is there's this myth or this cliche that we should learn how to use AI, and we often hear this in training and academia, which is we've moved, if you like, from we should be frightened of our students using AI and we should try to stop them doing it. We've realized that's completely pointless. So now the cliche is we should teach them how to use AI. And I think that's wrong. I don't think we should learn how to use AI. I think we should learn how to break AI. And I think what was lovely with your conversation with Pip last time round, I think, was what I find interesting about the Springboards model, for instance, is that he's trying to build into it this idea of weirdness, this idea of trying to break what AI can do. And I think the idea of AI as your partner is a cliche, and it's a get out, and it's something we see all over LinkedIn. Oh, we need to be partnering with AI. Well, what exactly does that mean? And rather than thinking of AI as a sort of, the cliche of your smart intern, think of ourselves more as the creative director or the mentor of AI. And our job is to push that AI. Like my job is to push the students and push them until they're thinking into new spaces, or they've broken the idea. And I think it's the same thing with AI. So let's stop talking about learning how to use it, and let's start thinking about learning how to break it.
So, no, that's really interesting. So, can you give us an example of what breaking looks like when it comes to your student work, or because in my mind, say AI literacy is kind of, when I look at it, it goes beyond just understanding the tools and the prompting, but it's what's happening behind the scenes. But I think I just want to explore what that
Mm.
means to you, breaking
Yeah.
into it.
I mean, I think we saw this in the project we did together, which is when they were presenting what they'd found. The most interesting things that came out of it for me was where they ran up against a brick wall, where they could no longer get the AI to do what they wanted it to do, or it came up with nonsense, or it came up with cliches. So much of the other stuff that we're teaching them is about how to do strategy properly, how to think about insights, how to think about humans. And by trying to get the AI to do some of that and realizing it couldn't do it, they learned far more about the limitations and the affordances of the platforms, but they also learned bigger questions about how AI is locked into monopolies. That actually, when those monopolies are controlling what can and can't be done with these tools, they actually learn far more about what AI is going to mean for them as juniors in the industry, but also, where it can add value and where it can't. And I don't think they would have got to that if they hadn't pushed AI until they realized actually it can't write like with this insight in mind, or it can't produce that sort of strategic connection. It's remaining at the level of facts and observations and not going that extra step into insights. Once they could see that that couldn't happen because they tried to get AI to do it, they'd learned far more, I think.
No, I love that, and especially reminds me of that New Economist campaign. I don't know if both of you've seen that, but the whole like make AI, turning around the cliche of like being afraid that AI is going to take your job, and instead making AI afraid you're going to take its job, and just reframing it. Yeah, love the whole thing. Like just really reframing the AI and how we approach a conversation.
But the question, Mara, of course, is that a real campaign or was that developed by AI? But that's a different question.
Yes, I'm still investigating.
So, what about the second myth or cliche that you might have?
Yeah, this one is even bigger, I think. We
Go for it.
we're stuck with the idea of trying to say AI is this or AI will be this. And I want to sort of take that apart and say there is no such thing as AI. It's not a single simple thing. Now, we know that if we think about it, because generative AI is not the same as agentic AI, is not the same as analytical AI. You guys do a great job at trying to separate those things out. But I think at an even more philosophical or a deeper level, without boring you to death, my own PhD is in a field of, or uses a philosophy called object-oriented philosophy or actor network theory. And one of the things I've tried to explore with that, and in my own sort of speculative fiction, is we can't look at AI outside of the network of sets of connections it's involved in. We can't look at ChatGPT without looking at OpenAI as a business. We can't look at that without understanding Sam Altman as a human within that business. We can't understand that without looking at the money connections with Microsoft. We can't do that without exploring the legal cases that are now in play around copyright or around privacy or the European connections, etc. Actor network theorists or philosophers of objects, if you like, say we need to take account of all of these things together if we're going to understand it. And I think too often we abstract AI out of those sets of relations. We don't even talk about it in terms of capitalism. And I think, again, going back to the project we did with the students, some of the best things they found were how AI was deeply embedded in surveillance capitalism, in operations of power, etc. And I think too often we say AI is this or AI is going to do this, as though it's this single actor that's not connected with anything else, is either running away without control or is in somehow being controlled by particular people, rather than looking at it as one element within a whole set of network relations that we need to understand and arguably connect in different ways.
I
No,
think,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and I think, yeah, especially with all the conversations around search, how search is changing, and especially with the capitalism element, with now either ads being placed into ChatGPT potentially, but also people just using that to find, people using LLMs instead of Google now. All of that is, again, just shows context is everything here.
Yeah, and I think it goes beyond context. I think it's not that all of those things are somehow in the background with AI as being the main thing. We need to understand those. That background is the foreground. It's that those things that are happening now that are setting it up. I was just doing some surfing around this morning, and I found there's a new lawyer who's been brought into OpenAI as their EMEA general counsel. And his background is in managing competition, regulatory, and policy issues. The very fact that this human object within this network is now having to do that because AI is deeply connected to regulation, policy at a European or a worldwide level, and competition. AI isn't separate from those sets of things. It's not the background, it's actually the foreground. And too often we don't address those things because we're so dazzled by the shiny lights and the latest trick across LinkedIn of dolls in an AI has made a doll of me. That
Yeah.
distracts us from what is really important.
Yeah, I think we are blinded by the shiny object syndrome, and I think we definitely lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think we're all trying to. It almost seems like we've kind of reduced AI, or so the conversations reduced AI to. It seems like it's just not black or white, but it's almost like a very simplistic concept. This is how we should operate. But the reality is, even when you look at AI in marketing, it is still very messy. We don't have all the answers. The conversation's ongoing. Maybe how we use AI now is going to change, and it's okay not having the answers to everything.
Yes.
You know,
It
so
reminds me of, I'm old enough to remember when the web first came into popular usage. And when I was running my own business advising clients, or what have you, you were dealing with the IT department. The web, who deals with the web? The IT department. We then realized, no, it's something for the marketing department, but now we're at the stage where it's something for the whole business. But we're still seeing AI as being something that is either for the techies to deal with, or it's
yeah,
something that is added on to your existing job, as though that's now the techie part of your creative job or the techie part of your customer relations job, as though they're separate, as though it's not something that needs to be addressed as that matrix, as that network, if you like.
absolutely, absolutely. And so and I think this is really great. So what about your last myth/cliche that you want to unpack?
Misconception. Yeah.
Misconception, cliche, myth, whatever. Yeah. It's again that, and I keep having a pop at LinkedIn for all of my LinkedIn friends. I do apologize, but I think it's a wonderful place to look for where these cliches are and what is actually happening with them. Anyway, the final one is the idea that AI is going to revolutionize everyone's lives. All right, and I think we need to rephrase that as it's going to revolutionize some people's lives. All right, I'm very privileged. I'm, straight white middle class male with a job and everything. Everything's fine. It is going to revolutionize my life, possibly. And I've got the capacity and the money and the resources and the education to be able to do that. In Britain, there are 8.5 million adults who still lack basic digital skills. There are 2.5 million households in Britain that can't even afford home broadband, and 1 in 14 households have no home internet access at all. To pretend that they are going to be using AI, or they're going to be, better still, in control of their use of AI is complete nonsense. It's this idea that AI is, and we hear this from the Labour government here in the UK, that we're going to be the leaders of this. That's absolutely fine, but the marginalised groups, marginalised by class, race, gender, what have you, have a different relationship to any technology, and particularly a different relation to this technology than the privileged groups that we often talk about. And that idea that it's going to revolutionize everyone's lives, it is going to revolutionize the marginalized groups' lives, but in completely different ways. And it's going to revolutionize the urban professionals and frankly, people like you guys and me and the people who are probably listening to this. And we need to understand that and address that, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because as businesses, if we're trying to talk to real human beings, all right, their experience of digital worlds, digital technologies, etc., are completely different.
No, I think that's such a great point. And again, something that easily gets sidetracked in the whole like shiny object conversation. Who's between like brands, government, policymakers? Who do you think needs to take responsibility here? Or is it up to all of us
Cool.
to help I don't know, remove the inequities and overcome the divides?
I mean, I think it is up to all of us, but the capacity to do that does come down to those with the levers to be able to pull, which does tend to be, in our societies, perhaps government. I mean, these debates about digital exclusion have been going on since, the early days of the web. The British government has appointed digital czars to talk about digital inclusion, etc. But again, even that idea of digital inclusion is separating out these issues of access to digital technologies, AI or other ones, from those other elements of people's lives. So, if your main concerns are around paying the heating bill and paying for your food for your kids, etc., AI is not top of your mind. All right. So therefore, you are perhaps not going to be fighting for that in the same way you're fighting for access to public services, etc. So it's that separation and if you like privileging of AI as though it is something that can be separated from real people's lives. And it is for the government to do it, but it's also for the industry, the tech industry, and those cheerleaders for AI, and I put marketing industries in that as much as anyone else, to be aware of that. And just as we have the problem of trying to get marketing people to realize there are human beings outside the M25, and there are people who are not your nice middle class chatterati, we have enough difficulty getting marketing to understand how that relates to technology and the technologies that are appearing. I think is a big challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's no, thank you so much for sharing these myths and sharing these myths, cliches, and us interrogating, going through and interrogating it a bit. So much to think about. Also such a lovely conversation.
Yeah, so Paul, we definitely have to have you back because I think there's a lot more discussion.
Well, me, Joy, just wind me up. I will talk for
No,
England. Don't worry about it.
no, it's great. I mean, and I definitely think that it's conversations like this that it shows that, like, again, we don't have everything figured out. We need to have these discussions because,
Yes.
like you mentioned, we don't really think about AI. I mean, I think we think about AI adoption to a certain degree, maybe amongst the working class or people entering, but we don't really think of it, I think, in a, just all across all different social and economic backgrounds or, things like that. So it is worth, and what Mara says, how do we start this conversation? Who is responsible for this? So I think it's absolutely great. But where just so people know, where can people find out, learn more about you or learn about the master's advertising course and the AI work that you're doing?
Yeah. In terms of the course, just search for MA Advertising UAL, and you'll find the course webpage and all the details there. In terms of me, you can reach me on LinkedIn. Just search for me. My other major thing I do is I write 100-word speculative fictions every day. An awful lot of them recently about AI. Think of them as tiny written Black Mirror episodes, if you like, some better than the others. If you want to see those, they're on LinkedIn, or just go to speculation.studio and the app is available there. So and I'd be interested to hear anybody's thoughts.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, that's it for this episode of the Marketer's Guide to the AI Galaxy. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank
And see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.